The amazing things that Neanderthals did. These facts will change the way you think about primitive people. Greetings! Today, we will talk about the amazing creatures of the prehistoric era, Neanderthals. And at the same time, we will remember some of the things that these primitive people did. Is it true that during archaeological excavations, experts found a flute and also proved that Neanderthals owe the emergence of heavy rock music? For what purpose primitive tribes used the daisy familiar to our understanding? Why Neanderthals erected huge stone rings like Stonehenge and how they treated the issues of religion? Be sure to watch the video to the very end to learn all the key details from the lives of our ancestors. What we know about Neanderthals today. Let's start with a general overview. Who is such a Neanderthal, how he looked, and what characteristic features had tens of thousands of years ago? And then we'll get to the most interesting part. So, the first remains of Neanderthal were found back in 1856 along the Neanderthal River in Germany. That's why our ancestor was given this name. Further finds of primitive people amazed scientists and specialists. It turned out that Neanderthals lived in the territories of present-day Europe, Central Asia, in some parts of Africa, and even in the Crimea. Appeared primitive people about 400,000 years ago, and although they fully adapted to all environmental conditions, competition with other tribes could not withstand. It is established that the last people from the tribes of Neanderthals died out 40,000 years ago. The external appearance of Neanderthal is quite different from modern man. Our ancestors had a strong physique and were physically robust beings. With an average height of 165 centimeters, the weight of the Neanderthal reached a mark of at least 70 kilograms. Another important point is the volume of the brain. The average Neanderthal had a brain volume of 1,400 cubic centimeters. By parameters, it is a little more than the brain of an average person. However, the frontal lobes were less developed in primitive man. It is they who are responsible for the ability to think logically, as well as responsible for the processes of inhibition. In view of this circumstance, we can conclude that Neanderthals did not have the ability to think creatively, were very excitable and aggressive to everything that happens. What language Neanderthals used to communicate with each other is not known exactly. However, researchers say that primitive people communicated using gestures and various sounds, and here at a distance used signals in the form of lit fires and even drums. Finally, representatives of primitive tribes were characterized by light skin, blue eyes, and dark hair. It is assumed that it is from Neanderthals modern man borrowed the genetics of light skin. Interesting fact, about 2% of people around the world still retain Neanderthal genes, what the Neanderthals were capable of. Here we come to the most important and interesting. Contrary to all expectations, Neanderthals proved that they are capable of much. Well, one thing at a time. Tools of labor. As you can already guess, primitive people owe the appearance of many primitive tools. Neanderthals were certainly not lagging behind in this respect. In their free time from hunting and gathering, they were engaged in creating and improving various objects. Primitive knives, spears, and spearheads did not bypass the attention of skillful Neanderthals. They were needed both in the household and in hunting. Neanderthals learned to work stones. Chisels helped them in this. It is proved that Neanderthals sewed their own clothes. The latter were made of animal skins, which they got after a successful hunt. Already at that time, thread was used, and weaving was done mainly by women. Warm clothes kept the Neanderthal body warm during the harsh climate. Caves and the ability to use fire also saved them from the cold. This skill was fully mastered by primitive people. As for open territories, Neanderthals created dwellings from the bones and teeth of mammoths. Art in Neanderthal society. Most likely you're familiar with cave and cave paintings of primitive people. Neanderthals mastered this art. Our ancestors believed that drawings heralded a successful hunt, which means the chances of returning with the loot are the highest. You'd be surprised, but archaeologists have even found a flute that belonged to the Neanderthals. And although its true purpose has not been established, but the fact of creating a primitive musical instrument is undeniable. As for music, we can say the following. Neanderthals were the first to use rhythms that resemble heavy rock. In this, primitive people helped special interjections and gestures, body language. So, experts have unequivocally proved Neanderthals owe the appearance of heavy rock music. In addition, Neanderthals are considered to be the discoverers of jewelry. Luxury items and jewelry were created as a rule from the bones and teeth of animals. And it was the Neanderthals who invented glamour. True, not in the sense that we imagine, representatives of prehistoric epochs used special dyes. They applied them to the upper parts of the body to stand out among their tribesmen. The use of natural medicines. Of course, there was no talk of modern medicine, not even close. We had to fight diseases and ailments with the help of folk, as it is customary to say, means. And here is what is known at the moment. Neanderthals used medicinal herbs as well as natural preparations. The first includes chamomile, which was considered by Neanderthals as an anti-inflammatory agent. The latter included aspirin and penicillin, but as natural remedies. They were used to treat many diseases. This is evidenced by the remains of substances found by archaeologists on the dental plaque of primitive people. In general, Neanderthals had a strong immunity and therefore did not get sick so often. The burial of tribesmen and the rituals performed. It is important to recognize that the Neanderthals had a special respect for the representatives of their own kind. They showed care and also looked after incapacitated tribesmen and old people in the tribe. Issues of religion played a key role in these tribes. Thus, one of the archaeological excavations showed that Neanderthals buried their tribesmen. A good example are the stone rings that resemble Stonehenge. Anthropologists have put forward a version that the burial rites at Neanderthals was held in accordance with generally accepted norms. For example, the body of a primitive man to avoid the attack of predatory animals or cannibalism carefully hidden. Then Neanderthal was buried and then brought flowers on the grave. It is the traces of the latter that have been repeatedly found in the excavation of burials. It is likely that the Neanderthals believed in an afterlife. Not in vain, they were so careful about the resting and burial of dead relatives and tribesmen. And to see the deceased off for the last time, primitive people gathered together in specially designated places and said goodbye to him, as such places were mainly caves. Conclusion. Thus, Neanderthals are unique ancestors of modern man. It was they who became the discoverers of some inventions and traditions. Due to their strong physique, physical endurance and health, they lived long enough on the territory of the entire Old World. The genes of the Neanderthals have survived to us.